There's certain narratives that I typically want to come in here and discuss and talk about. But usually I'm all about the enlightenment, right? And it just so happened that today's pod falls on Juneteenth. And the question lies as to how to acknowledge or celebrate Juneteenth, right? I don't think there's a right or wrong way. Well, some can say that there are some things that are out of bounds when it comes to Juneteenth that I see, and we all witness some people doing for the sake of propaganda, i.e., the great value brand, Walmart, being one of the brands that patented the term Juneteenth. Yes, I'll say it again and I'll say it slow. The great value brand that's attached to Walmart went and patented the term Juneteenth and not utilized it for scholarship, not utilized it for community upliftment, for STEAM, and all things that relate to our youth when it comes to education and technology and engineering, all things arts and math. No. They went and associated the patent term or the copywritten term Juneteenth, the Walmart brand, the Great Value brand, and associated it with ice cream. So let me just give you a narrative from the heDONizm podcast, more specifically me as Dante. And ironically, this pod actually falls on Juneteenth. So on this Juneteenth, I acknowledge our ancestors, those that were enslaved, those that had prayers for people like myself, people like you, those that even had prayers for those that don't identify as Black Americans, but yet had the love in their heart for equality. I acknowledge our ancestors that prayed for the impossible to be possible. And more importantly, I acknowledge our ancestors, those that fought, bled, and died for our freedom. On this Juneteenth, I even take a self-reflection as to what it means to be Black and a proud American. There's a difference between exploitation and propaganda of pride versus me actually being a proud Black American. I've visited several other continents, several other countries, and what we call third world countries. And I'll be honest with you, until you have witnessed that, until you've actually stepped on soil, until you've actually partook or experienced what it is on foreign lands and territories, you have a sense of pride of what it is to be an American. And me specifically, a Black American. On this Juneteenth, again, I acknowledge and thank God for our ancestors. We just want a party. Party just for you. We just want a party. Party just for you. We just want the money. Money just for you. I know you want a party. Party just for free. Girl, you got me dancing. Dance and shake the frame. Oh, yeah. This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Look how I'm living now. Police be tripping now. Yeah, this is America. Guns in my area. I got the strap. I gotta carry 'em. And it was something about the end of the song when you were intrigued with maybe the iconography, the videography, the photo and flash, or all the many things that were going on in the video that Childish Gambino, as we know him as Donald Glover, displayed. But to me, it was something about that end or that outro done by Jeff, Young Thug. You just a black man in this world. You're just a barcode. Ayy. You just a black man in this world driving expensive foreigns. Ayy. You just a big dog. Yeah. I kenneled him in the backyard. No, probably ain't life to a dog for a big dog. We're in the age of cancel culture judged by the court of public opinion. And today is one of them. And I'll be careful with my words, but just in case I drop a noun or a pronoun that's out of place, not perfect, but I do strive to get it right. But just in case I drop something that's out of place, just in case I drop an adjective, or more specifically, just in case you hear an expletive that may be displayed or pushed as a narrative, don't hold me to it, guys. You know what it is. I'm just here to pod. You know, before I get into it, I have to say that if the aliens came, or if we really need to embrace the tyology between hip hop, soul music, and pulling them up to be full speed, there'll be 2 albums. Actually, I can throw in 3. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, 1 definitely. But I'll have to say Jay-Z's 444, and also Childish Gambino, This Is America. Prophets in their own right to take pen to paper and make a bop, and yet alone embrace the culture and educate and enlighten at the same time. Do you remember Stop the Violence? Do you remember what that record did when top-notch artists that was in the hip-hop world at that time, or as some would debate or argue during the golden era, came together and made a slap called Stop the Violence? Do you remember what that song did to you? Do you remember how you felt when Public Enemy came in with dun 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 dun, fight the power? Do you remember some of the lyrics that was in that song and how it made you feel? And then shout out to the Ralph McDaniels of the world when it was played on the box and Fight the Power by P.E., Public Enemy, was displayed. And you saw so many people that looked like you and me on TV, but yet was standing for a cause. How did it make you feel? In true heDONizm fashion, I always like to start out with gratitude, and that's no exception for today. And just in case you don't know already, I'm Dante, also known as Mecca Don, the Don Mecca. Some may call me Coach. If you know, you do know. I've had discussions. I've had discussions. And there are some nomenclatures and known facts about man. Man will make time for the things that he or even she enjoys. Some may call me Ref. The verdict is still out. Some call me Rick James. Why? Because I'm cold-blooded. But you guys know what it is. I'm just here to pod. And I love to start out with gratitude. So let me just turn it right back around on you guys. I'm grateful for you all for tuning in once again and hanging in here. Congrats to all professional sports teams, athletes, and commentary, social, those that pertain to professional sports, whatever the case may be. We're seeing it on a different level now. We're starting to see more women on the same panel and platform and venues as certain men would have it. Or you would see an all-star male cast. Now you're starting to see sprinkles, if not a division split down the middle of women in commentary. And I must say, it is beautiful. But shout out to all the professional sports teams, athletes, different areas of sports since the start of 2024 and the end of 2023. And let me just tip my hat right now and say salute to the 2024 NBA World Champions, Boston Celtics. Let me also shout out the maturation of the W. It's going crazy right now, and it's not because of one person. It's just having its turn, I should say. But I will say, with all respect due, that certain individuals have caused a spike in the W right now. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cardoso. Aja's on the way in. Stand by. This thing is going to get better. Stay tuned and support. Don't be a hater. but the maturation of the W have made this must-watch basketball. And I will say it's so good to watch a game during not only prime time, but in the middle of the day on a beautiful weekend and see the W and see the women going at it. And when I say going at it, I mean going at it. Don't negate the fact that the W doesn't have physicality because they get busy. But leading up to where I'm going is the thrill and the adrenaline rush. And if I must say, I'm representing today for the U.S., the USA. Coming up, we will have the 2024 Olympics in Paris this year. And let me just say, as a proud B-boy, you will see this year in the 2024 Olympics breakdancing as an authorized competitive world sports. Started in the Bronx. Shout out to Sedgwick Avenue. They did it in the park. They did it after dark. But it will be honored as a new sport this year. 16 B-girls and 16 B-boys. And I will say this is huge for hip-hop. So thank you, everyone out there that kept the culture alive. You guys know I lived and breathed hip-hop. More specifically, I was a B-boy and a DJ. And not was, still is. If these knees could talk, they'll be screaming to y'all right now. But it's just a pain management thing for me. But for those that know, you do know dancing was my thing. But let me just talk a little bit more about the Olympics and hone into the men's USA basketball team, which are on a mission, by the way, right? If you go back to 2022, USA pretty much gave us an embarrassing thing. And I'm just not saying, hey, tuck your head, hide your tail. But the qualifying Olympic team kind of embarrassed us by bringing home the bronze. That ain't what we do in the good old US of A. Right now, these guys are on a mission. What am I talking about? Check it out.
What if America's greatest basketball players,
knocking it down, flying in to hammer it home,
were all stacked on one team? LeBron, KD, and Tatum making jaws drop. Steph making it rain. Embiid ruling the paint. What if you added AD, Booker, Kawhi, Edwards, Halliburton, Holiday, Bam?
What do you think? What does it look like? How about that hue? Is it something to brag about? When I think of Juneteenth this year, I think of progression. I think of what we consider now, which should have been, but let's just call it what a TI is, acceptance. Or is it the face of blank? You name it. But it's an ABC. It's an all brothers crew. They're on a mission. But I'll say this. The challenge was that how can, for instance, the 2024 Boston Celtics be considered world champions when they play teams that are in the United States? Well, last time I checked, Mr. Funny Man, Toronto is in the mix. We have international players that are in the National Basketball Association on soil of the United States. However, it is made up of a lot of individuals. There's individuals from Africa. There's individuals from Greece, a la the Greek freak. Giannis Antetokounmpo is in the National Basketball Association. And let me just pause here while we're talking about the NBA and give our condolences to the icon, Mr. Jerry West, a huge contributor to the sport of the NBA. And for those of you that don't know, when you look at that red, white, and blue logo that's associated with all paraphernalia, you'll see Jerry West dribbling that basketball. There were conversations and discussion about Michael Jordan being the new icon of the NBA, but I think that fell by the wayside. But I will say our condolences go out to the West family, and what an icon to the NBA community. But back to the dream team, the redeemed team. These guys are on a mission, and they want to follow up with that statement that, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. We're calling out world versus national when we have all makes and models of individuals from different countries and continents in the NBA. This is what we're doing. So we will see this year. We will see this year what the Redeem Team or the Dream Team is made up of when the whistle blows and tip-off happens. But who are the makeup of the 2024 Olympic NBA team, or the Olympic Dream Team, I should say, or the USA team? Let's call them out. We got Bam. We got Devin. We got Stephen Curry. We got AD, KD, Anthony Edwards, Joel Embiid. We got Tyrese Halliburton, Drew Holiday, LBJ. LBJ, this may be his last joint. We don't know. Kawhi's in the joint. I heard Kawhi finally cut those cornrows and got a little mini fro going on. Shout out to you, Kawhi. We know you've been facing some injuries. It just comes with your height, your muscle mass that you have, and going up and down that court. Hey, we ain't mad at you. Fam, you've given a lot to NBA. Don't hold your head down if you're listening to the heDONizm podcast. We appreciate you, Kawhi, and go get that thing. We got Jason Tatum. Guys, what I'm saying is we got some assassins on this USA Redeem Team. Let's see what they're about. But as y'all can see what it is, it's an ABC, and we hope to bring it home this year. But it's not just the USA Dream Team that's sparking up, or breakdancing for that matter, that's sparking up a pride in USA when it comes to our country representatives towards the 2024 Paris Olympics. Let's just shift a little bit, if you will, over to track and field, more specifically the track part. All right. And we know there's a 1500. We know there's a 440. We know there's hurdles. We know there's the decathlons. We know of the marathoners that are out there. Now that we all know who that goes to, but we got some competitors on this soil side. But there is a bona fide certified killer out there. And she goes by the name of Sha'Carri Richardson. Let me state that the women's 100 have been a no-show. There's been an APB called out for women since FloJo, or if you want to go back to 2017 when we actually made noise. The Jamaicans were killing it all the way up until this assassin touched the track. She has an amazing story if you don't know about it. She went into track. Or let me just take you back just a little bit. Sha'Carri Richardson, mother, pretty much said, I can't do this. I'm out. For whatever reason that is, we're not here to judge. We're just here to pod. But for whatever reason that was, her aunt and grandmother said, well, since you feel like the world doesn't love you, maybe that is true. Maybe not. But I tell you what, I love you. And let me just pause here parenthetically and say, when was the last time you reached out to somebody and said, I love you, I'm here for you? And it was authentic. When was the last time? Count it up. If not, run it up. But Miss Richardson's aunt and her grandmother said, we got you. But Miss Richardson had a fear. I'll touch on this another day, but let me just dive in quickly and I'm back out. When one fears that you're going to leave, they tend to be clingy, but at the same time, they're watching not what you say, but what you do. Her fear was her aunt was going to leave. Her aunt said, nah, baby, I love you. You're the daughter that I claimed that I didn't have to carry nor birth, but I see you nothing less than a daughter. And she said, I see her nothing less than a mother, because I asked her, are you going to leave me? And this was tested when she became a freshman in high school and she went to go run and she hit that sciatic nerve. So she couldn't run her freshman year. So redemption time came her sophomore year, and OMG, when she touched the track, there were flames coming out of her track cleats. There were flames coming out of her running shoes, because when she touched the track, she didn't just win, she dominated. And that got the attention of everyone. Moving fast forward to when she went to LSU, she had to make a name for herself, and it was not because of what she did in high school. It wasn't what she did in the past. She was just as good as her last meet. So this girl stomps on and all of a sudden start hitting the 11 number, which is almost unheard of for the 100. And it's hard to go under 11 in the 100s. And she's a shorty running against some giants with some huge legs. And I'm saying that in the most complimentary fashion. It's hard to carry a big body at a certain amount of speed, so it calls for dietary restrictions. It calls for conditioning. It calls for discipline. Your lungs got to be right. You have to intake the right H2O. You have to be able to breathe the right air. You can't really have allergy issues. Fight all things. Your breathing pattern, it's got to be the same all the time, so it requires a lot of discipline. So she's a shorty, so that means her legs got to run double the speed. But she was up for the challenge. Let me just say this. When you look at her, she looks as if Michelangelo took a sculpture and chiseled it to the perfect dimensions. The perfect anatomy. If you look at her, you're just like, wow, she's cut. Wow, she's built. And carries it very well. So at LSU and also in the 2022 going to the 2023 and current Olympic trial qualifications. This lady not only hit under 11, she came in and clocked a world record of 10.6. Whew. She's made a crazy turnaround. And the reason I'm speaking so much positivity in her, because have you ever seen the demise of someone and they go, up, I've hit the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. And this lady had a slight little ta-da. She had a slight little dodo where she hit the bottom. What happened? Not to talk about old stuff, but she was on that WEED. She was on that Kush, and she actually failed her drug test prior to her Olympic run. So she was disqualified. She DQ'd herself by hitting the weed. And she said she did it as a coping mechanism because of the loss of her biological mother, who she was trying to grow something with. So she did this in a state or a place that was legal, but the Federation said, no, you can't do that. It's against rules and regulations. So this lady has made a comeback, and she's making a phenomenal turnaround. And Sha'Carri, we salute you, we support you, and go get that gold. Dominate. We will see you in the Olympics. We wish you all the best. So it seems like 'tis to season to be hating. For whatever reason, social media tends to be the outlet for all things to share, which could be granted access or unauthorized things that one may voluntarily share. One could be exposure where it's identified of truth and lies. It could be to condemn. And if you've ever done your research on Mark Zuckerberg, a couple of Ivy League dodos that had money and time to spare while getting their higher learning said, hey, why don't we create a social network? And let's create something where we can judge women. Because after all, we're in Silicon Valley just sitting here creating stuff to get money for stuff that we know people are going to put in high demand, right? So they created a social network to judge women. And then it became the rights and ownership of it. And it went crazy. Now we know him as Mark Zuckerberg, the creator of Facebook, who took social media to the next level. But I want you to hear what a certain individual, and I want to keep it in the spirit of Juneteenth as we honor our ancestors, right? As we honor those forefathers, as we honor those that kept the torch lit, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and the Honorable Malcolm X, those change agents, those change leaders, those drum majors of change and their wives. Coretta Scott, Betty Shabazz. If we can just honor our ancestors and those that came before us as we acknowledge our freedom, put in a situation we didn't ask for, but we started from the bottom. Now we're here. But to think that some people exercise that freedom and do whatever they may feel is deemable for them to do. Here is a narrative that's painted by an individual regarding women.
Y'all need to be like Candace Owens, because y'all ain't in this world. Like, seriously, you're literally the reason for the downfall of the black community. That's a fact. You guys are the reason. You dumb bitches want to raise these black men and then holler at the black men when they do you dirty and leave you. You dumb bitches raise these men. You raise them. The only good thing that you black bitches do is give birth to black men. That's it. And then all y'all want to holler all the time. Every time women of any other race do anything, we want to be black. Bitch, why the f would we want to be black? You don't even want to be black. Really? No. If I could come back and be black, I'd be a black man, not a black woman. The f out of here. Why the f would I want to be a black bitch for? You all are the most bitter, racist, crusty ass bitches I ever seen in my life. The only time you see black women actually be classy, please, them days is over. Them Claire Huxtables, they don't exist anymore. There might be a little handful of women that like that still left, but the rest of you want to be like Suki Hana and Sexy Red. And you're nasty. Go wash your hair, go change your sheets, and go take care of your ass baby. You the mad one, bitch, and you gonna stay mad for the rest of your life. Me, I'm good. I'm straight.
So there is a thing, right, called, or being called, hood adjacent, right? Which means that you're not necessarily of the hood. You're not necessarily built for the hood. There are some people who actually live in the hood that are not hood. And notice I'm excluding neighbor, neighborly, or the compound word neighborhood, right? When we think of the term hood from an urban perspective, or an Ebonics perspective, or vernacular perspective, or colloquialism perspective, I'm talking about that of the hood. And I don't want to give too much, because I see some propaganda out there utilizing the positive attributes of the hood and turn it into propaganda. You fit it in where you fit it in. But one thing that I will say is, just because you're hood adjacent doesn't give you rights or means to puff your chest as if you're from the hood. There's some positive outcomes of the hood that some of us know about that you may not, that you're speaking of, that you have no knowledge of. And I'm not saying if you're qualified, go. If you're not qualified, stay out. That's what we call habitual line stepping. You cross the line. And I will say this, Cast, like, to my viewers and listeners out there, there are a lot, and it's something about the summertime. It exposes the cray. And also deep in the winter when there's not a lot of sunlight, it exposes the cray. And that's no exception for this cray. Listen, there are a lot of unhinged people in this world, and social media is just bringing it to our attention faster than the speed of sound, pretty much. Or is this young lady pushing for cream, not cash, but clout that rules everything around me? Now, it's been reported and said that this unhinged woman is married to a black man. Sir, are you the empowerment of this woman's actions or this lady's behavior? I mean, okay, this lady is a loctician. She do locks, y'all. Didn't we hear something of this nature from a Rachel Dolezal? Right? Didn't she go from NAACP to a loctician to a teacher, then to OnlyFans? What does that sound like to you? That's cream, if you ask me. Not cash, but clout. And maybe she's getting some dollar bills, y'all. But who knows? It just sounds like a culture vulture, if you ask me. And it sounds like this lady sat in a seat and got extremely culture. And she said, to hell with being hood adjacent. I'm just hood. I'm qualified to say what I say. Well, do me a favor, young lady. And here's where, in the last pod, let me be clear. Let me be crystal clear with what I'm saying. You may not agree with all of her thoughts and ideology, but Candace Owens is a black woman. right? I don't want to speak about who she's married to. I don't want to speak about who her friends are. I don't want to speak about to her embodiments of who she is as a woman. That is hers to have. Leave it alone. But when it comes down to the identity, Candace Owens is a black woman, and I do see excellence in this young lady. Agree or disagree? Sometimes we're just made to disagree with each other. You notice that we all have one thing on the opposite side of our finger, and that is a fingerprint. Yes, our creator made them all different for a reason, right? So one thing that I will say is the uplifting of Candace Owens is not the definition of black woman excellence. She is a micro of millions and trillions of excellence in the black woman. Ma'am, I'm sorry you don't know enough that these are the only examples that you have. But I would dare you, as Candace Owens did, back when your boy was over Revolt. They had a panel discussion. It was Killer Mike on the panel. It was Mr. Armstrong was on the panel, right? Killer Mike was on the panel, if I didn't say that already. T.I. was on the panel with Candace Owens. And they talked about things that matter when it comes to Black America. So one thing that I'll have to ask you, ma'am, are you willing to sit down with black women and say that to their face? Or are you just having a thumb thug moment? Did your Twitter finger start itching and you just decided to post? No, it's not even the oops moment of the embodiment of Donald Trump that caused him to get elected through popularity using Twitter. He used what he got. He played the game. But this lady is putting a camera in front of her face saying these things blatantly. And someone challenged me, hey, go look at some of her socials. Unhinged. I mean, she tap dances on the edge of some things, but sometimes that knee-jerk reaction will cause you to scale back just a little bit. But I will say it again, there are a lot of unhinged people in this world. And sometimes being adjacent to certain things don't authorize you to be a part of the culture. This is a saying that I've said it before, and let me just make it clear here. Just because you have a jersey does not make you a team member. Talking about social media, talking about the influence of others, talking about society, talking about local and even the elections that are coming up. Would you guys believe that there are certain individuals that are on certain podcasts? There are certain individuals on certain platforms, certain TV shows that are tied to big brands that are saying on camera, it's their right. So I'm not here to judge. But I am letting you know that there are some individuals that are saying it with their chest. Nah, fam, I ain't voting this year. I'm not voting for this election. Period. Just flat out, I ain't voting. These are people you see in everyday media that are clearly saying, I ain't voting. Some are saying it's like voting for the less of two evils. If I vote for Trump, if I vote for Biden, it's voting for the less of two evils. Let me explain to you what you're taking away by saying you're not voting. You're taking away your ability to choose. Yeah, we get it. You don't like either one, but I'll go back to what I just said about our ancestors. They bled, they marched, they fought, they died for your ability to vote and to have the right to vote. But for you to blatantly say, these ain't even statistics accumulated from data. They're going off of vocal pieces. You admitting that you're not voting. Now, you may be, and you could be capping. You could be capping, which is what they call COE, content over everything, right? You could be putting that on that, which I don't understand why you would do that. Just say, hey, it's my vote. It's my confidentiality. I stand with that. How about you just leave it at that? But for you to blatantly go on a platform right? And some of these platforms are people that don't even look like you. If you really want to get down to the bosses of some of these big brands or some of these things that we see in our culture, they don't look like us in leadership. We claim we the boss, we the biggest one. But if you really go and look at the check writers, I'm talking about the check writers, the shot callers, the ones that sit at the table and twiddle their thumbs, they don't look like you. And for you to blatantly admit, let me tell you something. I got a text the other day, right? And it said, would you please confirm if you are voting for X or Y? And then it got aggressive. Hey, I'm a little disappointed I didn't hear back from you. What the hell? First of all, what decision I make is my business. And yours, for that matter. But if you don't vote, don't complain about nothing because you had an opportunity. Let's just say for the sake of you don't agree with both platforms, right? Have you looked at the Untitled? Have you looked at the whole campaign of what they stand for? You're telling me there's not a one-liner that they've done that you either appreciate or you disagree? You're telling me you 100% disagree with Donald Trump, 100%. And you're also telling me you're 100% disagree with Joe Biden. Now, I'm not saying they're two sexy beasts. I'm not saying they're two sexy candidates. I'm not saying that they have a sexy platform or a sexy campaign. But can you find one thing out of the two of them that you agree with that you know that's going to make a difference in the future of not only you, but your children or your children's children, right? The Crime 94 bill, I may have that wrong, but that was from Biden's camp, right? But from Trump's camp, we're talking Roe v. Wade. But you don't want to vote? Again, I'm not here at the heDONizm podcast. Things can get a little subjective, right? And I think that's what platforms do nowadays. They try to persuade you. They try to put you in a chair of persuasiveness. But let me just say this. I'm not here to sway your vote. I just want you to vote. I just want you to vote. And then again, it's not always about the presidents that you're voting for. You're voting for a whole hierarchy of things. Folks, get woke. Stay woke. Childish Gambino sung a hell of a song. Stay woke. Bing, 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 ding, ding. Hey, yo, don't make the man make a slap for nothing. Don't make him write a lyric that tells you that this is America. And you listen to it and do just what the video said. Yeah, it's a bop. Yeah, it's a bop. Do you realize? Not going to get into that. But I will say this. Don't throw away your ability to choose. And for people who are not super voters or people who just show up for the presidential elections, please understand that some votes do come with a domino effect. Please research what those things are. And in addition to that, it may not just be about you and what you think. It could be some choices that you have to make in the voting card that will make a difference in how you live, breathe, and survive. But to flat out say you're not voting, I do not get it. Your local elections matter. How guns are governed, that matters. Sometimes it comes down by way of vote. And speaking of how guns are handled and what I just said about the young lady on social media, there are a lot of unhinged people here in America. In this world, we know that for a fact. But what makes America think that they're excused from all the foolishness? We're not a Teflon country. We have issues. We have issues that are adjacent to us. We have issues that are in our hoods, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, right? In our gated way communities. There are issues everywhere. Just because you don't see them like air doesn't mean that the issues don't exist. I told you about social media and how it travels almost as fast as the speed of sound. Well, this was a slow burn. This one was slow. And I'm talking about in 2022, an individual by the name of Nygil Cullins. And let me just issue a trigger warning here on this topic. I led with it, but let me just issue a trigger warning out there. Viewer discretion is advised for some of the things you're going to hear and see and are discussed, right? Let me get into my dialogue for a second. But Nygil Cullins in 2022 was shot and killed by an Atlanta police officer at the inside of a Buckhead establishment, more specifically, a restaurant. There were 911 calls. There was a body cam. There were 3 POVs, there were 3 vantage points. There was surveillance video. But all of these things were released a couple of weeks ago regarding moments leading up to the shooting of Nygil Cullins.
Bro, what's going on?
This footage coming from more than 2 years ago, when 22-year-old Nygil Cullins was shot and killed on May 18th, 2022.
According to Atlanta police, on May 18th, 2022, officers will call up to the establishment by the name of Fogo de Chao for an unruly man armed with a gun.
63 shots fired, 63 shots fired.
This is how the night ended at Fogo de Chao, but it's not how the night began for Amanda and her friends who sat next to Nygil Cullins as they waited for a table.
The guy honestly was just quiet, and he just looked really well dressed, a really nice looking guy.
But over several minutes, Amanda says Cullins' behavior changed.
He starts just mumbling and mouthing and getting louder and louder and just saying absurd things.
Amanda says she got nervous after hearing,
He said, I'm about to go off in this. So I got up and I walked over to the host stand to the security guard and I said, are you guys not going to do anything about this guy? And he whispered, he has a gun. We have to wait until the cops get here.
It was then, Amanda says, things made sense.
There was the bartender who was staying far away from us. He was very quiet.
Amanda says she saw Cullins smash a glass on the floor and her party decided to head for the door when police arrived and approached him.
They tried to arrest him, it looked like, immediately, and he slipped out and he went to the floor. But right after that, there was a gunshot, so that's when I took off running.
Amanda's boyfriend took this video moments after the shooting stopped. Amanda calls the night chaotic and terrifying.
We're just looking for a cover because the gunshots are going off. Like, there's so many. I mean, I probably heard 10 to 15 gunshots. I truly think that if the cops hadn't shot him, many people would have been shot.
This is America, right? This is where subjectivity lie, right? You be the judge, right? Or let's put this in a court of public opinion. Right. What say you about the behavior of Nygil Cullins? Right, wrong, or indifferent? Was that the warranted outcome? Right, wrong, or indifferent? Do you feel that this situation could have been handled a little different? Again, I'm putting subjectivity out here. OK, this is for you to be the court of public opinion. Right. You have to ask yourself what laws were broken, what lines were being crossed. What method was used to remedy the situation at hand? But regarding the Nygil Cullins family, they are saying that the restaurant and security guard falsely portrayed Cullins. Let me just go back. There is some context to this situation based on my research, which I'm no authorized legal professional, right? This is all public record, right? And this matter of what I'm mentioning is subjectivity. However, this is what was said by the mother, that she made a call prior to the situation saying that she has a son that has mental illness. She called a facility trying to get a bed. I guess that means a space or a place where those with mental issues go for remedy, treatment, or to be in a better state than where they are. According to the mother, Nygil Cullins was in a manic state. It was almost out of her control because of his age and the fact that once a person gets to that level, and I'm no medical professional, pardon me. But obviously when a person gets in that state, it's hard to bring them down. So she was calling the professionals to get him a bed because he was in a manic state. When the individual left after a tussle or even a pardon of please stay, you're not well, she made a call and was put on hold for long periods of time. And they refused to get back with her in a timely fashion or no return at all to let her know that, hey, we have a spot for Nygil. We'll come get him, or police bring him. Regardless of the fact, during that time that she got no response for the request that she had for his manic state, this happened, where he went to the restaurant and what you witnessed happened. Now, allegedly, or as it was stated by the family, Nygil was invited. Nygil was invited there. So the 911 call almost portrayed as if, A, they didn't know him, B, that he was an uninvited guest. But here is the, oh, wow moment that I had. Nygil was a former employee of the establishment. They knew him. So this is where the, oh, wow moment comes in. But regardless of all that, Nygil didn't see a day in court, nor did he see the day after he went to the establishment where he was invited. And again, I'm only pointing out information from public record. But the family claims that the restaurant and security guard falsely portrayed him. They said that he was a physical threat, meaning Nygil Cullins, which led to the shooting. They are also, when I say they, I'm talking about the family, they are also alleging inappropriate use of deadly force. They are claiming negligence, civil rights violations. They are suing the police officers who killed him. They're suing the city. They're suing the restaurant. And they're also suing the security guard and the company that he works for. I said it before and I'll say it again. There are a lot of unhinged people out there. It's almost getting to the point where you have to keep your head on a swivel. And it used to be, at least back in my day, and some of you out there can identify and relate to this, it used to be a time and day where you don't start none, won't be none. It's not the case anymore. All you have to do is just get on a bus, and next thing you know, you're put in harm's way. Hence the individual that hijacked the bus in Atlanta and literally had the driver of the bus do as he said per the weapon to the head. Some people that I know actually saw the bus going down the interstate. One individual was killed. And again, speaking of unhinged, this was another individual who was battling mental health issues. Prior to that, the actual Atlanta news media had this individual on tape, live per broadcast. As he was speaking out, they interviewed the guy. I'm talking about the hijacker of the bus. He was getting interviewed on the news. It's a small world. But I'm just calling out to my viewers and listeners that there are a lot of unhinged people out there. There's one thing that I'm starting to see, and I was actually challenged with it the other day when I was in a department store, more specifically a home department store, you know, like your go get your hammer, your nails, et cetera, et cetera. A guy said he loved what I just said. I was talking to someone that was unrelated to him. And he said something to the degree of, I like when you said always bet on black. That's not something I say. That's not what I said. But yet this individual came over to tell me he loved the comment that I said. And I gave him a smile as if I can relate to what he's talking to, because sometimes it's not about arguing, nor engaging with people who could be unhinged, or you're assessing the situation. Let me just say something. I come from the school of hard knocks. I'm also a U.S. Navy veteran. I've also been put in combat situations where sometimes it's not always about reacting. Sometimes you just have to assess. Hence why some men, some women don't like their backs to the door. They want to be able to assess. They want to be able to know they got how many exits before I can get out of a chaotic situation. Right? Is it time to be a hero? Or is it time to get home safe? You have to make that decision. But one thing that I will say is, when I got out to the parking lot, I saw a vehicle, more specifically a pickup truck. And there were two things associated with this pickup truck. And as I went out first, I said, I bet I know whose pickup truck that is. Why? Because I saw certain things on the pickup truck that just gave a telltale sign of where we're going in the fall. What you're going to see leading up to the 2024 elections. This gentleman had two cloth base, humongous American flags on the back of his truck. Now, some of you may be loyal listeners, some of you may not, but I did a pod way back when talking about two rappers that made a song called American Flag. And some of the things that they were talking about were very divisive lyrics that were pretty much charging individuals. And one thing that I will say is there are some buzz and keywords going around right now. And I will say again, there are a lot of unhinged people out there. But back to the truck, he had two huge American flags on the back of the truck, right? And in my knowledge of the ensign, if you know, you know, in my knowledge of the ensign, it should be carried and displayed in a way, but not that way. So what's empowering the use of this? But guess what? Wait, there's more. I've seen that recently as an uptick. It's always been a thing, right? No, it's popular now. So as I led before with being a proud Black American, we have the 2024 Olympics that are coming up. But we also have the 2024 elections that are on the rise. The campaigns or the debates are right around the corner. So much that the divisiveness of our last debate between former President Donald Trump and current POTUS Joe Biden, it was basically a dumpster fire. Oh, you don't have to take my word for it.
That was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck. That was the worst debate I have ever seen. In fact, it wasn't even a debate. It was a disgrace.
You just took the words out of my mouth. You used some high-minded language. I'm just going to say it like it is. That was a shit show. There are still people out there who haven't made up their mind either on which candidate to vote for or whether to vote.
Yeah, I mean, it was a complete disaster on all fronts. And I think if you came into this thinking that, you know, two men in their 70s who want to be the leader of the free world for the next 4 years could have a reasonable exchange of ideas, you came away from this debate thinking that's not possible.
But so much where they've had to remix how the debate will go now. First of all, no audience. And I would just say this, the moderator now, there are two, Jake Tapper and, oh my gosh, what's her name? Bam, I'll put it up. But nonetheless, they are the moderators. Oh man, this is going to be must-see TV. I don't understand how this is going to be a peaceful journey regarding a debate that will be live and televised. Stand by, is coming. But there are words used like, if I'm not elected, there will be a bloodbath. You know, there are triggering words and there are divisive words that if I don't get into office or if I don't do another term, that will be this. So it's almost like the persuasiveness and the brainwashing is in full effect right now. But is this a piece that divides the country yet again? Again, this is just subjectivity and something to think about. But I ain't gonna hold y'all. I'm just really here to pod. And for some of these things, for the unhinged out there, they could be your neighbors. You could be walking down the street next to them. You can be in the line where someone behind you has their shopping cart dead up on your ankles, about to clap your beautiful ankles, and that just be the thing that sets you off. Keep in mind, you may not be the only one unhinged. Sometimes it just may be a matter of how you handle things. I ain't asking you to be no sucker. I'm not asking you to be passive, but how you handle that situation may be the determining factor of, are you part of the problem or the solution? Do you want to be in a court of law, or do you have the luxury right now of being in the court of public opinion? Which, by the way, that's the age we're in. We're in the age of cancel culture, judged by the court of criminal and public opinion. But even today, during this pod, it was something. I'll be honest, this is a heavy one for me. But I think as we go on throughout the summer, leading into the fall, let me retract that. After this presidential debate that's coming up, there's going to be some bullschwanky. If you look right now, there's campaigns flying on commercials that are very divisive. That's always been politics. There's no exception for that. But is it presidential? We usually see these joints usually on your mayoral or your gubernatorial. You usually see those on the local level. But is that presidential? I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to play the game, but it's just now that certain things have been allowed. The crime bill that Joe Biden did and President Trump are calling the insurrection J6 warriors. J6 warriors. One of my favorite movies I ever saw in life, The Warriors. I stand by that. You're calling them J6 warriors. Biden is doing things to put our country in a financial woo-ha. There's good and bad in everyone. And as much as you want to take the good and leave the bad, it's kind of hard to cipher between the two. But I will say this, it's your vote. It's your choice. See how this got me tight? But if I drop the noun, an adjective, an expletive, please don't hold me to it. You guys know what it is. I'm just here to pod. Till we meet again, guys. Peace.